Because to the other big development where the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has called on the European Union and the United States of America to take stronger action against continued Russian attacks targeting civilians. Zelenskyy has warned that more international support is needed to protect Ukrainian citizens and hold Russia accountable for the ongoing violence. The urgency comes after a Russian strike on Donetsk region claimed 20 people, worsening the humanitarian crisis. As per reports, Moscow has claimed the industrial region is part of Russia, and Kyiv says that Kremlin has amassed 100,000 troops at the key parts of the front line for a fresh offensive. I have with me Professor Vasilin Popovsky. He's a professor and vice dean at Jindal Global Law School. He's joining me from New Delhi. Thank you very much. And what's your perspective? Of course, the president of Ukraine has been reaching out to heads of states from across the globe, whether it is Europe or we talk about India and other countries as well. Now, a simple message that has been, equivocally condemning Russia and its offensive on Ukraine, particularly in wake of these 20 new deaths that have been reported along the border on Donetsk. Do you think there is any peace on the anvil, or at least a temporary ceasefire?
Well, another very sad news, as you said, more than 20, 23, I think they reported killed in one strike in Yarova, which is Donetsk, which is very close to the front line. And this is Ukrainian territory. Well, everything is Ukrainian territory legally by international law. Russia is an aggressor and war criminal, and it's very clear for everybody, for every observer, for every lawyer, for every reasonable person around the world. And he continues, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy continues to repeat the same for 3.5 years, that his country is invaded by an aggressor, brutal aggressor, cruel, killing civilians mostly. The Russians don't advance much on the battlefield. They kill civilians. We saw another strike on Kiev, also very murderous, only a couple of days ago. And obviously the European and American and all countries in the world should do two things. One is to continue to support Ukraine, financially, militarily, even morally, by expressing condolences and by expressing sympathy with the fate of those killed, but also with their entire nation, which is fighting a war of survival for the last 3.5 years. And the second thing they should do is to sanction Russia, to stop buying oil and gas from Russia. And it goes to every country in the world. Europeans did it already. They imposed sanctions 3.5 years ago. Very minimal quantities are still there, but they will be also eliminated very soon. But large countries like China and India continue, even double the import of Russian oil and gas. And that's absolutely unacceptable, immoral. That fuels the war, that gives Putin more weapons, more drones to kill more civilians in Ukraine.
Okay, also, there's always a flip side to the story, particularly with regards to the close ties that the Trump administration has now built in the last few months, particularly with Pakistan, where Pakistan continues to be the terror hub. Pakistan continues to fuel terrorism into India, in Kashmir, and with more of these business deals that Trump is signing with Pakistan, which is only providing more financial support to sponsor these terrorists that are hiding, that have their bases in Pakistan. Should the Trump administration also consider fueling terrorism from Pakistan into India?
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. Again, we have a very incompetent, to put it mildly, administration since January in the White House. And the chaos they created everywhere in the world with repeated tariffs, with inconsistencies, with all policies effectively produce immense damage on international law, on international trade. As you said correctly, sometimes supporting regimes that fuel terrorism and do not take the proper measures to reduce those conflicts, to make peace. In fact, the whole paradox here is that the administration and Donald Trump himself claims to be a peacemaker, doing exactly the opposite. In fact, his actions prolonged the war in Russia-Ukraine. It prolonged the war in the Middle East. It didn't solve a single conflict. In fact, the one that was solved between Armenia and Azerbaijan were not because the White House. It's not because Donald Trump. The negotiations go back many months before that. So we have a very narcissistic, egoistic, criminal president. He himself was convicted 34 times anonymously by an independent jury of crimes committed in the United States. He should be imprisoned. He should not be the US president in a normal times. So you're absolutely correct with your frustration with the support that this administration is giving to Pakistan. I'm 100% with you on that.
Thank you very much, Professor, for joining me.